All right, guys, welcome to another video of my channel. In this video, I'm gonna be reacting to local election fraud here where I live, in the Rio Grande Valley, Texas, South Texas. And the purpose of making this video is just to highlight how voter fraud takes place even at the most minimal or minute of elected official races, I guess you could call it. Basically, how this just highlights how even the smallest positions of power can drive people to do dishonest things. And in this case, it was for a commissioner's seat here in South Texas. The city where this took place was in Edinburgh, Texas. Obviously, I don't live in Edinburgh, Texas, but I live around there. And so essentially what you're gonna have is what happens here is that this gentleman who we see here in the picture runs for city council to be a city councilman or city commissioner. It's basically the same thing. The gentleman wins a tight race, I believe by 10 to 15 votes around there. He wins the race. His opponent, a local businessman, alleges that there was voter fraud and that's why the margins were so tight, but also that he feels that had it not been for that voter fraud that took place, that local businessman, this man's opponent, would have won the race. And so, like in any campaign or any political race, depending on the voter margins, the loser of that race does have a right to contest, basically meaning to legally challenge the results of that race. And so therefore what happens is that a judicial process starts, right? Essentially it goes to court where a judge reviews evidence, reviews testimony from both parties, and if need be, it can go to trial, or it can go to bench trial or something like that. It can go to where the court has a right to call witnesses and hear all the testimony needs to be hear all the evidence, and eventually make a decision as to A, was there voter fraud, and B, how many votes were illegally casted as a result of that voter fraud, and C, either make the decision to have the race ran again, basically redo the election, or he can overturn the decision if it's found out that the amount of votes that were illegally casted did sway, what would you say, the election in favor of one person, and had it not been for that swing, that the other person would have in fact won the race. And so that's exactly what happened here. This gentleman by the name of David White wins the commissioner's race. I believe this was in 2019 by a very little votes, and it turns out that it comes to light during court that these people, some of these people that voted for him, received illegal help and sometimes were forced to vote a certain way, but I want to get into the article. What's going to be discovered here, what is important to note, is that who are the people that assisted this man are people who are involved and belong to certain powerful families here in the Rio Grande Valley that have been involved in politics their whole life. They're sort of the family that runs or is known to run the political landscape here in the Rio Grande Valley. They hold positions from district attorneys' offices to mayorships, commissioners, city managers, etc., etc. They're very well known for a lot of attorneys. A lot of their family members are attorneys, so they have a lot of wealth and power that they are not afraid to throw around. And they, whenever they run political campaigns, they turn out the machine. They really do. They have that infrastructure that helps them not only turn out the vote, but they apply methods to increase that voter turnout. And what happens here is you're gonna find out that some of those methods were illegal. So let's get into it. I'm going to skim through it. I'm going to touch base on some of the important keys of the article. I hope y'all stick around. It's very important that you all know, especially if you're from Texas watching this video, that voter fraud is real. And no matter how small compared to state or federal elections, that power corrupts people and makes people do crazy things. And people are power hungry, and that's very dangerous for constituents. So the title reads, as judge issues fact statement, White appeals Edinburgh election turnover. So let's get into it. This is David White. That's when he was perceived to be the winner. He was sworn in. So it says, less than a month after overturning the results of a hotly contested Edinburgh City Council election, the judge has now issued a scathing document outlining the pattern of wrongdoing that was carried out by volunteers with the David White campaign. Meanwhile, White, the incumbent who was originally declared the winner of race for place 4 by just 10 votes, has now initiated an appeal of the judge's verdict. So, Visiting senior judge Jose Manuel Bañales handed down the 24-page findings of fact and conclusions of law statement on June 17th, a little more than 2 weeks after presiding over a bench trial in the election contest. So basically what a visiting judge means is just that a judge that usually does not conduct his business here. You know, he's not somebody who runs a court that is located where this case is presiding in. So the judge is probably from out of town. Maybe we've just assigned to the case to avoid any assumptions of biases from local judges here. So it says, at the conclusion of the 4-day trial, Bañales, meaning the judge, ruled that more than 24 ballots were disqualified in the race after finding assertions made by White's opponent, Gerardo Jerry Lozano, to be credible. Basically, the judge found out that these allegations by Mr. White's opponent, that there was some voter fraud going on there and illegally casted votes, that they were true, they had merit, and he wanted to find out more. Okay, so it says Lozano, Mr. White's opponent, had alleged that several voters had been illegally assisted in casting their ballots, had used fake addresses on their voter registration forms, or had been coerced to vote for White by politiqueras volunteering with his campaign. And I'll get to what a politiquera kind of is in a little bit, but I want to keep on reading. Okay, so I'm going to skip here a little bit. Some of these paragraphs don't really, they're not of importance, but I'm going to skip here. Rather than disqualifying the election results and calling for a new race to be run, the judge concluded sufficient evidence existed to instead declare Lozano the true winner, meaning Mr. White's opponent, that the judge found that he was the credible winner. And in the facts statement handed down last Monday, the judge outlined voter by voter exactly how he came to that conclusion. At the heart of Lozano's allegation, meaning Mr. White's opponent, was an assertion that members of a prominent Edinburgh political family, the Palacios, had exerted their influence to sway the election. And so this is the City Hall. The Palacios family have been involved in not only Edinburgh, but Hidalgo County politics for years. White, meaning the gentleman who had initially been presumed the winner and was sworn in of this commissioner's race, White currently serves as a criminal investigator for the Hidalgo County District Attorney's Office under Toribio Terry Palacios. Previously, Palacios, talking about the current district attorney, Terry Palacios, Palacios' nephew, Ricardo Rodriguez Jr., served as district attorney. So before the current district attorney Terry Palacios came into office, his nephew, Ricardo Rodriguez Jr., was the Hidalgo County District Attorney for Hidalgo County. Ricardo Rodriguez drops out, or what would you say, retires, says that he no longer wants to run again for Hidalgo County District Attorney, and he drops out of the race, endorses his uncle, Terry Palacios, and assists him in running for that vacant district attorney's position. Okay, so several other members of the extended Palacios family also serve in elected or public positions. Remember, I told you all that this family is very prominent, and they basically run the political landscape here in South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. In the election contest, however, Lozano claimed, meaning David White's opponent, the commissioner who allegedly had won the race, his opponent claimed that three Palacio sisters, Mary Alice Palacio, Julie Caracaño, and Janie Zamorano, had unlawfully assisted voters in casting their ballots. Bañales, the judge, ruled that not only had the sisters unlawfully provided assistance to largely able-bodied voters who did not qualify for assistance. This is key, guys. But in at least two instances, they had coerced the votes of people who were not competent to vote at all. Quote, an incompetent woman is the adult daughter of Yolanda Chapa Pulido. Yolanda Chapa Pulido testified that she cast incompetent woman's vote for David White, Bañales stated in his fact statement. In viewing her when she appeared by video deposition, it was patently clear that incompetent woman is mentally incompetent and physically disabled and not qualified to vote, the judge said in his ruling. The judge also specifically noted that Julie, one of the Palacio sisters who was alleged in assisting in these incapable voters in casting an illegal vote, Julie took and signed the oath of assistance for the incompetent woman's ballot. In another instance, the judge found that a woman named Lorena de Leon had similarly helped her mentally incompetent aunt to cast a ballot for White as well. This time, however, it was sister Janie Zamorano, another one of these Palacio sisters, who signed the oath of assistance. At the trial, White's legal team stipulated to the facts of the two voters' mental incompetence and agreed that their votes should be disqualified. Okay. Nonetheless, in a footnote to his finding of fact in regards to Pulido's mentally incompetent daughter, Bañales expressed his horror, meaning the judge, after finding all of this dirty shit going on, the judge expressed his horror and concern. Let me see where I think I lost him. Expressed his horror at how her vote had been taken. The judge expressed his horror at how her vote had been taken. Quote, the court is troubled. This is the judge saying this now. The court is troubled and concerned that the sisters would have patiently ineligible person cast a vote in this election, Bañales stated. Exploiting mentally and physically challenged persons to sway an election is a clear violation of law and more egregiously an abuse of the person of an abhorrent to the rights and respect of the mentally and physically challenged, the judge further stated. In other instances, the judge found that the Palacio sisters aided some voters who vehemently tried to deny their assistance. including one woman who was wearing a nightgown. Quote, voter Rosa Maria de Leon was in her house when Janie, one of the Palacio sisters, came to her house. She did not know Janie. Janie said that they had come to pick her up to go vote. When she told Janie she was still in her nightgown, Janie told her she would not have to get out of her vehicle. The statement of facts read. De Leon, meaning this lady who was in her nightgown who did not want to go vote, tried to tell one of the Palacio sisters who was there to pick her up that she didn't require assistance and could go to the polling place herself. Quote, she pleaded with Janie to let her go to vote on her own. Although still in her nightgown, she gave in and got in the van. The statement of facts further reads. So I'm gonna stop reading it there. You essentially got the gist. But one thing that I did want to point, the reason this is so relevant is because this person, the commissioner David White, who we saw in the picture here, how is he tied into this Palacios family and these sisters that are helping do the election fraud? This gentleman works for the current district attorney of the county, Terry Palacios. He is a criminal investigator for him. And so when he runs, well, it says it there. I'm not the one saying it. It says it there in the judge's ruling that he received assistance from the Palacios family in the way of these three sisters. The three sisters being the sisters of the district attorneys, of the current district attorney. And so what do these sisters do? They try to, in Texas, if you are incapable or you have a physical disability or something like that, you can obtain assistance by somebody to try to fill out your ballot if you cannot go to the voting booth. However, that person who assists you has to sign a oath of assistance, basically, swearing that they're assisting you independently. They're just assisting you with trying to fill it out. They're not going to persuade you to vote anyway. But the judge found that was not correct. That they persuaded people to vote for this commissioner David White, and not only that, they persuaded people to do so even when people did not want to do it. And so the judge was disgusted. He found out that more illegal votes were casted for this man right here, and that these votes, after he took them out, after he disqualified those votes that he found to be illegally casted, that after doing the count, after removing those votes that were illegally casted and then counting the tally of the votes, that his opponent, Jerry Lozano, was actually the winner of the election. So he says, I am now declaring, this is a judge, declares this man's opponent, Jerry Lozano, the actual winner of the commissioner's race. And now Lozano is the current commissioner for the city of Edinburgh. Why did I want to make this? And I said this in the beginning. Because this is a type of bullshit and corruption and just lies and deception that happens here at the local level. We're talking about the local level, not the federal level, not the state level, where even bigger roles or even bigger, what would you say, more powerful positions are up for grabs in as far as elections. And so imagine if that's happening here locally in a I would just say at the very tip of South Texas. Imagine what is going on in other places. So I appreciate y'all watching the video. I know it was long. I was a lot of reading. I hope y'all found it interesting. This is a type of stuff that kind of gets me interested in politics, because people who are corrupt should be exposed. The inner workings of the corruption systems and the people who take advantage of that should be exposed, and it should be known. And people should not be afraid to do so. And people's voices should be heard, because at the end of the day, when corruption happens, when fraud happens, it is a constituents, meaning it is the citizens of those towns that get affected. People do not get the best representation they could. They do not get the best leaders, meaning, and that leads to them not getting the best services that people deserve. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope y'all like the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and then I'll be making more videos like this. Thank you.